Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of Strat Watch. So here we go again, we're going to bring you more stratospheric data. We are going to be seeing what's currently happening in the stratosphere over the Arctic and over the North Pole. We're going to look at forecast data as well. And if all of that wasn't enough, later on in the video we're going to have a look at another cold winter from a stratospheric point of view. This week we're looking at the winter of 1984-1985, the first of a trilogy of cold winters in the middle of the 1980s. So it could be an interesting video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thanks so much everyone for doing that. We released 6 AM forecast, first video up today. We're going to have a 10 to 14 day video day, not a live stream because I'm off out this evening. So a 10 to 14 day will be a video upload, and that will be coming up for you early this afternoon. As I say, please like, share and subscribe. Thanks so much everyone for doing that. We are a week before Christmas, so that means no Strat Watch next Wednesday. I might try and get Strat Watch in another day next week, because I think these are quite important videos to keep going on a week-by-week basis through the winter. So I will perhaps try and get Strat Watch in one day next week, but it won't be next Wednesday, Christmas Day. If it's alright for everyone, I'm going to have Christmas Day off. I won't be sat here recording Strat Watch on Christmas morning, if that's alright with everyone. Anyway, let's crack on with episode 3. So we're going to start off with the situation currently at 10 HPA over the Arctic and North Pole. So this is from the JMA. The grey line is a trend line, and the black line shows where temperatures have been and where we currently are with the temperature at 10 HPA. So we're currently around here, a little bit under our long-term 30-year average, but not by a great deal at this point of the year. It's virtually about the coldest the stratosphere gets, to be honest, at this point of the year. And we should expect to be around minus 72, minus 73. We're probably about minus 74, something like that, minus 73. Not much in, but it's only a degree or so, so very close to average at 10 HPA in the stratosphere at the moment. Going a little bit lower down to 30 HPA, closer to the troposphere. There, things are a little bit more dramatic. We are actually really quite cold there, under minus 80, probably about minus 82, minus 83, something like that. And we'd expect to be around minus 75, I think, at this point of the year at 30 HPA. That's closer to the troposphere, so it might have a little bit more of a tropospheric impact, and that could help to explain why we currently have quite a strong stratospheric and tropospheric polar vortex. So this is from the University of Berlin. Haven't shown these charts yet in these Strat Watches, but I thought we'd include them today. So very helpfully, we can see where the North Pole itself is on these charts. So that white spot just there is actually the magnetic North Pole, and then we have got the wider Arctic Circle in that sort of circle round there. So we've currently got cold temperatures and a strong stratospheric polar vortex at the moment at 10 HPA. Temperatures hovering somewhere, as we say, about minus 70 to minus 75, something like that. Now we go right up to the very, very top of the stratosphere to 1 HPA. That's as far as we can go, and it's a long way from the troposphere, so it has no direct impact on what's happening in the tropospheric level. But there we have seen really quite a significant and substantial warming of the stratosphere over the past week or two. So these very vibrant sort of red and orange colours is a very substantial warming of the stratosphere that has occurred at 1 HPA. This can sometimes be a precursor to an SSW taking place lower down, the 10 to 30 HPA boundary level. At the moment, it doesn't look like there's any particular sign of a sudden stratospheric warming event, but I think sometimes it can be like 2 or 3 weeks further on from the warming at 1 HPA. So it's something to monitor, it's something to keep in mind, and that's the reason we're doing these Strat Watches, of course, to see what's going on in the stratosphere. So this is how things are looking at 10 HPA in terms of the temperature at the moment. So the blue is from the GFS biometric seal. So the blue colours, these are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over the Arctic and the North Pole. You see, the core of the coldest temperatures actually a bit displaced through the North Atlantic. where we're down to between minus 80 and minus 84. And the pole itself hovering again somewhere between about minus 72 and minus 76. Now you'll notice these yellow and orange colours here. That's over Siberia, and that is quite a substantial warming of the stratosphere, but currently going on over Siberia, short of an SSW, and isn't going to have any direct impact on the pole, except maybe a bit of a displacement event of the polar vortex. So as we run through over the next few days, the first warming is going to kind of fizzle out, but it is still maintained to some degree here over eastern portions of Siberia and pushed over towards the Pacific side of the Arctic. But meanwhile, most parts of the Arctic are still covered by that large stratospheric polar vortex and the blue colours there, which of course are the cold temperatures at their roots in the stratosphere. Now that's how we look as we get to Boxing Day, 26th of September. Basically, after a slight displacement, polar vortex is moving back. Oh, let's get rid of that. It's moving back towards the pole itself there. So let's run on into extended range with this GFS run, see if there's any further warmings of the stratosphere. So another minor warming taking place over to the Pacific side of the Arctic and the North Pole, but not really all that much going on through the Christmas week. That gets us to January the 3rd. So another slight warming is gathering pace here over Siberia and around the Pacific side. But basically, the stratospheric polar vortex still very much maintained, still pretty strong there, and a couple from the stratosphere into the troposphere. No sign of an SSW there up to the 3rd of January, except perhaps a slight displacement type minor SSW that's currently taking place. That gets us 2 weeks out. We can go further out than that, though, with the temperature anomaly forecast, 10 HPA, via the ECMWF itself. That's next week. So this is like week 2, really, but it's week 1, as we only have 5 weeks to go at rather than 6 on a Wednesday. So this is from the 23rd through to the 30th of December. There's that very slight warming on the Pacific side of the Arctic there. And we've got actually a bit of a cool down going on over northern parts of Russia and Siberia next week. But temperature anomalies are very close to average, really. That's week 2. So we've got another slight warming beginning to happen across southern parts of Europe and into southern parts of Russia. Meanwhile, the pole itself, though, showing signs of further cooling there, especially over towards Siberia and in the North Atlantic. That's week 3. Another warming seems to be starting to develop here over Siberia. Again, having no direct impact on the pole, though, and well short of what we would classify as an SSW. That's week 4, which is going to be the 13th to the 20th of January. That warming then moving back around to the Pacific side of the Arctic and the North Pole. And then that's week 5, signs of a cool down, especially on the Pacific and Siberian side of the Arctic and the Pole. And that gets us to the 27th of January. So no sign there of an SSW, sudden stratospheric warming event, up to the end of January. Of course, the further out we go, the more unreliable these forecasts are getting. Same with any long-range forecast, the further out you go, the more speculative and unreliable it gets. So we shall keep monitoring, but definitely no sign there of an SSW sort of this side of the middle of January anyway. The way of looking at the stratospheric polar vortex is with the zonal mean zonal wind, and this forecast taking us towards the end of January as well. At the moment, we've got very strong zonal wind, record-breakingly so by the look of it, at 10 HPA. We do see that coming down through the Christmas week and reverting back closer to average. But then this thick blue line, which is the ensemble mean, is staying stronger than average throughout January, really. So this is signs of like a strong stratospheric polar vortex, certainly from a zonal wind perspective, continuing through January there. So are we facing a bit of a polar vortex of doom here? Well, hopefully not, but you wouldn't necessarily be ruling it out. That does look as though we've got a very strong zonal wind, you know, from beginning to end, really. Again, there's a few outlier ensemble members that are going for reversal of zonal winds. These ones are forecasting in SSW, but they are very much in the minority. Most of the ensemble plume cluster members So sorry, when most of the ensemble plume cluster members are at that level and stronger than our long-term average. So for the time being, despite the fact we have got quite a significant warming strategy currently going on over Siberia, short of an SSW, the time being, you know, it looks as though we are very much with a strong stratospheric polar vortex there. And certainly at the moment, we've got a strong tropospheric polar vortex as well. We shall keep looking for the Strat Watches to come. Now, in this season of Strat Watch, we have been including historic stratospheric data. For this week, I wanted to look at winter of 1984-1985, the first of the trilogy of cold winters through the middle of the 1980s. And this one has a very cold January. It's a cold winter overall, although December is mild. It's mild up to Christmas with barely any frost, to be honest. Then it gets very cold around the New Year, setting up a very cold January. Often a lot of snow in January 1985 as well. Not quite a sub-zero C2 January, but it wasn't that far off from it. And February was pretty cold as well in an on-off fashion. Right, well, we start off on the 1st of December, and we've got a bit of a warming here happening over Siberia, kind of similar to the warming we've got at the moment, to be honest, but over the pole itself and over the Arctic, see these blue colours, so that, of course, stratospheric polar vortex. We start the winter then with a fully formed and a pretty strong stratospheric polar vortex. Now, that's the 5th of December, 1984. Another renewed warming began to take place over Siberia there, but being kept over Siberia, not directly impacting the Arctic and North Pole, where we've got the blue and purple colours. Again, those are the cold temperatures at their roots in the stratosphere. Moving through to the 10th of December, that warming sort of moves from Siberia around to the Pacific side of the Arctic and North Pole, causing a bit of a displacement event. So when the blue and purple colours are kind of pushed away from the top of the pole itself and down into Canada, North Atlantic and Northern Europe, such as we see there, we call that a displacement event. So doesn't tend to have much impact for Northern Europe. I think it can have more impact, you know, in other parts of the Northern Hemisphere, though. Fundamentally, though, the stratospheric polar vortex still well and truly in command and in business. That's the 15th of December, 1984. That warming over the Pacific side, the Canadian side, or the Western Canadian side of the Arctic is kind of fizzled out. The blue and purple colours continue then to be sitting over the North Pole. And again, a bit of a displacement event. The coldest temperature actually displaced now in towards northern parts of Europe, but polar vortex still well and truly formed. Let's go further on to the 20th of December, 1984. Modest warming over Siberia, a little bit of warming across southern parts of Europe. Otherwise, though, the polar vortex again looking well and truly strong, formed, and, you know, those cold temperatures are persisting. Let's head on to Christmas, then. So this is Christmas Day, 1984. From a stratospheric perspective. So then we're starting to see something quite interesting happening. We have stretched the polar vortex a little bit, although it's still well and truly entrenched, you know, over the North Pole. But notice this warming that's happening over the Atlantic. This is actually the start of very interesting development. So that's the 25th. This is 26th of December. Notice that warming over the Atlantic and Eastern America is beginning to intensify. And this is actually the start of a sudden stratospheric warming. It's a very unusual place to get a sudden stratospheric warming beginning as well. Normally, 9 times out of 10, SSWs start over Siberia. Not always, but, you know, that's normally where they begin, and then they move from Siberia into the North Pole. This one is actually happening over Eastern America and Canada, and into the North Atlantic. That's 27th of December. Again, we are stretching the polar vortex further there and continuing to weaken it. And then we go through to the 28th of December. 1984. That warming really is gathering pace now in the North Atlantic, moving up towards Greenland as well, and still across eastern portions of America and Canada. So let's get on. Notice this very slight one beginning to happen over Siberia as well. Again, further stretching there of the stratospheric polar vortex. So let's go to the 29th of December, 1984. Well, now we really are on it. We've got a proper SSW going on here, sudden stratospheric warming going on over Greenland and into eastern portions of North America and in North Atlantic as well. Another very slight warming is happening over Siberia. Notice the polar vortex is really being stretched now to its absolute limits. And you can see we've got two lobes of blue beginning to decouple with one another. Are we going to get a split at the end of December 1984 of the stratospheric polar vortex? Yes, there we are. Look at that. That is a classic sudden stratospheric warming event, sending the two lobes of blue in opposite direction. That is, of course, the polar vortex at its roots. So one portion of the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere is spiraling off into western parts of Canada and America. Another lot spiraling off into towards Russia and eastern parts of Europe. And in between, we have got this very significant warming event, particularly focused around Greenland now, with this sudden stratospheric warming. Again, this is a very unusual warming. You know, this doesn't happen all that often, that the warming will begin and be focused around the North Atlantic and Greenland as well. That's New Year's Eve of 1984. So the warming over Siberia has also really picked up pace as well. So there's like two SSWs going on really. The first one, the instigator, still focused around Greenland, and then this secondary SSW over Siberia. The upshot is that we have split the polar vortex with reverse zonal wind. We've done everything that you want an SSW to do, and at this point we're starting to already get a tropospheric response, seemingly, with the weather starting to turn colder across northern parts of Europe. The end of December 1984 is when the cold weather began, and then that intensified through the first week of January 1985, and the weather turned increasingly cold and snowy. That's how the stratosphere looks on New Year's Day 1985. An absolutely beautiful SSW there in the winter of 1984-1985. So obviously the split, very dramatic. One lobe of blue across Europe, another lobe of blue into the northern Pacific there. In between we've got this massive warming type event, and that gets us to the third. Again, you see this is a very sustained and long-lasting sudden stratospheric warming event. At this point, we're getting like a large amount of northern blocking appearing within the high latitudes, but sinks us down into a proper cold and wintry January across most parts of Europe. That's the 7th of January. By now, the SSW is easing off. It's easing off the gas, but of course, the damage has been done, and the rest of the winter we will see further impacts from that SSW. That's the 11th of January. Another woman trying to get going there across eastern parts of America. 14th of January, again focusing that warming over eastern America and Canada, and also up towards Greenland as well. That's the 19th of January. Now, the stratospheric polar vortex beginning to start reforming, or trying to. It will always come back, of course, the polar vortex, but this is at the stratospheric level. So down in the troposphere, we now have large amounts of northern blocking as a result of that SSW. 28th of January looks like that, with further warming over Siberia, modest warming, there's the polar vortex, looking rather ragged, but has reformed at the stratospheric level over the Arctic and over the North Pole as well. That's the last day of January. We'll just run on quickly through February. I don't think there's any more warmings until the final warming, I suppose. That's the 1st of February. We go on to the 5th of February, looking like that. That's the 10th of February. February was on off with the cold. The coldest weather occurred, quite quickly after the SSW through January. And it was, as I say, a very, very cold January with quite a lot of snow, but just short of the sub-zero CT January. February was quite cold as well, but in a much more on-off type fashion. But there was still quite significant cold weather and snow at times during February of 1985. That's the 20th February 1985. So no further dramatic developments. The warming really was focused around the new year of 84 to 85. Late December into early January is when all of the excitement happens from a stratospheric development and point of view. That's the last day of February from a stratospheric point of view. Again, we have those blue curves with cold temperatures at 10 HPA over the Arctic. North Pole Polar Vortex comes back later on in the winter, and that is why February was much more on-off with the cold, I suppose, compared to January. Right, well, I hope you enjoyed that little trip down memory lane. That's the kind of thing that we are looking for, and that was an absolutely classic sudden stratospheric warming event that we had there in the winter of 84-85, and that really was a game changer. So as I explained last week, because last week looked at 1979, which had sub-zero CT January. The last time we had a sub-zero CT January was in 1979, and there was no SSW involved in that whatsoever. So we, pulled off an extremely cold and very snowy January without any dramatic development in the stratosphere. The SSW in that winter happened in February, at the beginning of February of 79. So, that's an example where we get a classic cold winter, a severely cold winter without an SSW. This, though, is on the opposite side of that. This is where actually the SSW is a complete game changer. Because up to Christmas, as I say, of 1984, it had been really very mild. There'd barely been a frost. I remember it very well. I was quite young. I think I was 7. And there had barely been any frost at all through the autumn. It had been a very wet, but also very mild autumn that carried on into December as well. Up to Christmas, barely a frost, and then the SSW happens, and all of a sudden it flips on a coin, and we're locked in to several weeks of very cold and snowy weather through January of 85. So game changer SSW there from the winter of 84-85. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. We're going to do episode 4 of Strat Watch hopefully next week. It won't be on Wednesday, which is Christmas Day, but I will try to get episode 4 of Strat Watch done next week to bring you up to date all of the latest stratospheric developments and have another look at another historic video from a historic winter, I should say, from a stratospheric point of view. Right, we're going to be back shortly. It's 10 in the morning there. Come back for that in a bit for episode 3 of Strat Watch. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.